Alright boys, let's talk about this suspension. Let me show you the suspension real quick and get back to driving. So King shocks, Thuren springs, 2.25, so 2 inches and a quarter of lift. There you go. We got Thuren shocks, well, Thuren valve shocks, but they're King shocks all around. So let me show you the stance real quick so y'all can see before this trucker gets too pissed off. Ah, that's crap. Let me go on the other side. Probably got a couple thousand miles on this setup now. Not very impressed. Now just stand by before y'all fall off your chair and say, Paul, you got issues, man. I want to talk from an owner's perspective. I will talk about Thuren as a company. I will talk about the springs and the shocks, what I'm feeling and experiencing. Now it's not quite that 2000. Yes, this thing moves. If you just let her rip a little bit, just to here. Anyways, let me buckle the heckers up. I just wanted to get out of the FedEx's way. My boy ain't gonna be too happy to slam on his brakes. I know how it is when you got a van full of goodies and everything starts hitting you upside the head. You guys keep in mind, when I was 18, I did courier service. Something like FedEx or UPS would do. Anyways, so as far as these springs on these shocks go, my expectation were like on low speeds, they're gonna get absorbed better than stock. Guys, wrong. Absolutely wrong. Is it worse than stock? No, it is not worse than stock. On low speeds, it is not worse than stock. Now, let's talk about where this suspension does shine. I feel like this is primarily the shocks. Now, I ain't a professional in suspension, but it has to be springs and shocks. But the way I understand it, it's mostly shock. Now, when you're going on higher speeds and you're going over bumps and cracks and all that shebang, it's quite the difference, guys. That's where this suspension care, whatever you want to call it, really shines. It's more controlled. It's more just all around more controlled when you're going on high speed stuff, like you're hitting potholes. Now, as far as articulation, like you want to go off into the ditch, that's where I feel like the spring is more flexible, or okay, let's just call them progressive springs like they call them, even without the sway bar modification. Just keep in mind, everything's stock besides the springs and the shocks in this setup. I know, Paul, what are you complaining about? You never got the whole kit. I know, but for a guy that's, you know, just stays on the highway, what does he need those off-road capabilities? You know, it's that washboard crap that I have to deal with sometimes when I'm going to a job site or something that, you know, it gets annoying. That's where the suspension is going to shine. You just speed up a little bit and just plow through it. It is awesome. The test of the day for Paul, there's a railroad track, okay, by his house. So going into the hit, it's not where your suspension is going to shine. It's coming off of it. And these shocks really shine there. That tells me it takes good care of the rebound. You know, it's not just call it a one-way street. You know, it's a solid two-way shocking system, but it works well. You know, it works fairly well, and it works well, like, clearly. It ain't hypothetical and like, well, that's what they talked about, I guess I sort of feel it. No, it's clear as daylight. Now, for you guys thinking that the 18s and 19s have the same spring up front, you guys are wrong, because they are different. They might be the same length and yada yada, same size or whatnot, but the steel is different. At least that's my experience. Mostly 18s are going to come with softer springs. The 14s through 17s come with brutal springs. I am talking about Ram and Ram only here. I do realize the 19 is a different truck, and believe me, I drive a 19, okay? I know what I'm talking about. So, with that in mind, let's give it a quick rundown about the product, and then I'll talk about the company. The springs do their job, and they do a good job. That's why I talk about articulation and pulling off the road. It's softer. It goes into the ditch a lot. It goes into the ditch. That does not sound good. It makes its way through the bumps and humps into the ditch a lot better. And Paul, what are you talking about low speed bumps not doing the trick, not doing justice? Well, when you're driving like 30 miles an hour and you're going through a bunch of potholes, I'm not seeing it. Once again, keep in mind, I might have a little bit of blurred vision because I did pull off rough country suspension little kit up front, and that was a pretty good deal for the money that they want for them. That was a pretty good deal. The shocks, the spacers, that did well. So as far as low speeds, potholes, it's a wash. Okay, I know the shocks are longevity. It is not a wash because you could clearly tell there's a difference in that. But as far as ride quality and ride feel, I can't say either way. Now, on the rear end, my Bilstein shocks, they are rough. On that small little slow speed pothole, I'm not seeing a big difference. I underline, I'm not seeing a big difference. It is a marginal better difference. I would say about 10% better on the rear end when it's empty on these small slow speed potholes. Now, on a big bump, on a big jump, like I'm talking about my railroad track, it sort of does one of these to you and launches you. Well, when you hit it, that's not the issue. It's when you're coming down, how you come down. Like, I have an Escalade, okay? I mean, follow along, guys. A Platinum Escalade, this should be the best of the best. It can't handle that. It can't handle that jump very well. It hits it fine, but when it lands, it just drops the whole SUV, and it's pretty hard. You're talking SUV versus truck, Paul. Come on, get real. No, I'm real. I'm just talking about the suspension working. So keep that in mind. The small, slow speed, you're not going to see a big difference. It's the mid to higher speed stuff. It's going to shine. The suspension kit's going to shine. And it's the big stuff. Like if you were to hit a big, if I were to take off on the shoulder right now, they're not like huge potholes, but you know what I mean? It's fairly rough terrain. And this suspension is going to shine and is going to leave the stock one in the dust. Okay? I think I'm being fairly clear. So day-to-day, little potholes, little, water eyelet things on the road. This suspension and the stock one is not going to differentiate that much. A big pothole, the suspension will. And high-speed stuff, the suspension will. So what are you really missing, Paul? It really depends how you use your truck. And if you're like me, you drive around town all day. Here, I'll show you. Like dumb stuff like this, like it's a graded road, but there's bigger stuff in here than just that, and you could hear in the suspension it's pretty, actually they graded this pretty good, but it's bigger bumps, and the suspension absorbs it just wonderful. Like a little bit of washboard right here, like I'm gonna hit it, like no big deal. Now on the stock suspension, this wouldn't be the case, guys. Like you could see the vibration, you could see the jump, but me being the driver's seat, it does not jar me like the way it would on the stock stuff. So even this is the mark where you're like, oh wow, that suspension's really paying off. I just want you guys to be realistic, and for you guys to be like, oh, that's what Paul's talking about. So anyways, so for you guys that are just barely moving your truck around town, you're not going to see a big difference. For you guys that have to work your truck out in the dirt, you're going to see a difference. And you guys doing highway miles loaded, you're definitely going to see a difference. And for you guys doing some dumb stuff and harder drop-offs or harder bumps, bigger holes, you'll see the difference there too. Now, okay, off we go to the very important question, the question that actually got me this kit. Keep in mind, I called up Carly, or Carlisle. You guys know what I'm talking. Thuren and Carly are the same company. Correct me if I'm saying it wrong. Nothing wrong with Carly. They're not better or worse product in any way, as far as my understanding. It's the sales guy. When I called Chris at Thuren, solid guy, very open to discuss with you. Answered all my questions. I mean, he was more than generous with his time towards me, which I found very interesting. And you got weirdos like that just live out here in the boonies. Sorry guys, I'm just taking a ride for this little bit of a rough ride, if we could call it that. I'm just showing you that it's definitely worth it. Like the suspension is definitely worth it. I don't want you guys to get out of it and be like, oh, what is Paul talking about? What does he mean? Like your stock suspension won't even take up these bumps. Like look at these few bumps. Like you hear it, but it doesn't jar you up like the other one, like the stock suspension one. Anyways, back to the company. There was a problem, guys, and I don't want to point fingers. I don't know what happened, where it happened, but the dates weren't met, okay? And that's not my issue. And I don't really have an issue. There was a problem on hand. The date was not met. And when I addressed it with Chris, I'm like, listen, bro, here are what my options are, and here's what I'm up against, you know? I don't know, guys. Check out these bumps if you can. It's hard to tell them in the camera, but these are pretty good potholes. Like, it looks violent, and believe me, it's pretty violent, but it's nothing compared to the stock one, you know? It's fine. When I told Chris, listen, man, XYZ was this, and the equation is now this, and this is my situation. It ain't good. Let me know what you could do, okay? And it was, I believe it was day after a holiday, or it was a holiday when I contacted him, and that guy was more than willing to help me. I'm not getting paid for this, guys. I really ain't. But as a consumer, I can tell you, if crap goes down, and whatever it is, if you live in a perfect world, then nothing ever goes wrong in your world. But in my world, in my real world, stuff happens all the time, and that's where it shines. That's where a company shines. And he's like, okay, let me see what I can do. He made it right. Whoop, shipped them out really quick, and once again, the problem was resolved. And that's it. Now, my issue is, I'm not underlining that I had an issue. I'm underlining that I had an issue and it got resolved professionally and quickly to the best of his abilities. That's it, man. If you guys don't know how to use Google, I don't know how I can help you, but just go on Google, type in Thuren, and Thuren suspension. I think Chris is out of Idaho. Anyways, fellas, that's it. This became a very long review, but clearly this video isn't for everybody. For those guys that it is for, you guys will appreciate it. And you know, for the money you're going to spend on this system, it's definitely worth it. A nice thing for me is any of my plans, I still have 3 plans with this truck. Anyway I go, this kit is coming with me. I'm going to unbolt these shocks, these springs, and they're coming right with me. I made a video how to do that. It's very easy, very simple. Alrighty, boys, that's it. As always, may the Lord bless you. May y'all have a mighty fine day. Ciao. Bye.